If you've been hoping for new GPUs anytime soon, well, you might want to watch this video. Let's talk about it. Before that, this video is brought to you by Jawa. Jawa's mission is to be the community for safely buying and selling PC parts at a reasonable price, offering low fees and great customer service, which I can definitely attest to, as I personally bought this RTX 3070 from Jawa anonymously, and not only did it arrive quickly, but when I ran into an issue, they immediately replaced it with a flawless substitute and asked that I only send the old one back after I confirmed the new GPU worked great. And the best part is the price I got this card at was well below other listings I could find anywhere else, likely thanks in part to Jawa's much lower seller fees of 9 to 12% depending on when you join. Also, the week of Black Friday, November 22nd to December 2nd, Jawa was dropping epic deals every day, from $300 off select custom PCs to RTX 4080s for just $550. Check Jawa daily to see what's featured. So the RTX 50 series, well, it's starting to get around a year old, and we should at this point be starting to talk about refreshes or possibly even the RTX 60 series. Oh, and fellas, that 60 series I do expect will be very exciting, but we're not quite there yet. No, we should be talking about first the RTX 50 Super series, and there has been a ton of leaks and rumors around this series of GPUs, and originally it was sounding like the RTX 50 Super series would be coming out around January, maybe February of 2026, and actually that would only be a few months away at this point in time. In fact, there were some rumors suggesting that it could even be unveiled at CES 2026, and yeah, I'll be attending CES, so I was definitely looking forward to learning more about them at CES. However, I have not heard any further news about the RTX 50 Super series for well over a month, and learning more about those GPUs, because as a quick recap, if we take a look first, starting off with the RTX 5080 Super, here's what they all were supposed to look like. So the RTX 5080 Super was likely going to be effectively identical to the RTX 5080, however, it would have higher clock speeds, and instead of having 16 gigabytes of VRAM, well, they'd be using the new 3 gigabyte chips to get you up to 24 gigabytes of VRAM. A similar thing could be said for the RTX 5070 Ti. It would have the same amount of cores, but the clock speed would be going up, and it would go from 16 to 24 gigabytes, although I will add these could potentially be shipping with higher speed memory as well, so you could see a slight improvement to the overall performance of the 5080 and 5070 Ti going to their Super variants with the more VRAM as well as the higher clock speeds for both the cores as well as the memory, probably somewhere around 10% for these two, and this would be more focused on longevity in terms of this refresh for those GPUs. The more exciting one would be the RTX 5070 Super. This thing would be going from 12 gigabytes to 18 gigabytes, and instead of having 48 streaming multiprocessors, it would be going to 50, so a small increase, probably higher clock speeds as well. But you know, as a whole, would I expect a huge performance jump out of any of these cards? No, but going from 12 gigabytes to 18 gigabytes, well, it would allow you to run all of your games at the maximum settings, no questions asked. So there's a lot of people very excited for these graphics cards. I mean, imagine if the 5070 Super came in at $550 or maybe even $499, giving you 18 gigabytes of VRAM. However, I haven't heard anything about the 50 Super series for well over a month, and I started to question, is this even going to be happening in time for CES? And it looks like that might not be the case.
Are you kidding me?
So the first bit of information that got me thinking maybe this isn't happening, well, this comes from an update over at videocards.com, and it says rumored GeForce RTX 50 Super series delayed over 3 gigabyte GDDR7 shortage. And this is actually originating from Unico's Hardware over on Twitter, who says, quote, due to the crazy shortage recently, 3 gigabytes GDDR7 can't make it to the consumer market for desktop, thus the Super series is canceled, and the current models are expected to be more expensive very soon because of the increasing cost of 2 gigabyte GDDR7, which, by the way, if you're thinking about picking up an RTX 50 series card, well, right now a lot of them are available at MSRP, and it might be a good idea to try and pick one up if you've been thinking about it, as it is starting to become uncertain with the rising memory costs, whether or not you will continue to see good, deals coming up for these cards. If I see them, I will let you know, but I will have affiliate links to all the cards in the description below if you want to pick one up now rather than wait and kind of roll the dice on will they get cheaper or possibly more expensive. But in any case, that definitely is concerning. A canceled RTX 50 Super series would not be great. However, there was another update, and this time it comes from the leaker Mega Size GPU, once again over on Twitter, and he says, No cancellations yet, just delayed. Now planned to launch in 26 Q3, previously set to launch in 26 Q1. So he's talking about Q3 of 2026, which, well, I mean, let's be honest, that would be almost a year away from now. And that is actually very concerning because that begs the question, is the RTX 60 series even going to launch by the end of next year? And, you know, if this turns out to be true, then clearly that would not be the case, because if you've got the Super Series launching at the end, close to at least, of 2026, you're certainly not going to turn around in 2-3 months later, launch the RTX 60 series, which means this could be, if true, suggesting that the RTX 60 series could be delayed until early 2027 or possibly even later, possibly due to the memory and chip shortages that we could be seeing thanks to AI.
AI at the center.
Yes, AI is going to be possibly the culprit once again to your GPUs getting possibly more expensive or even delayed. So definitely not good to see there, but you know, in my opinion, do I think this is going to be happening? And here's what I think. I think it is possible the RTX 50 Super Series could end up getting delayed. However, if it is, I don't think it'll be delayed all the way into Q3. If that happens to be the case, I think at that point, they're just gonna scrap these products and move to the RTX 60 series. I do also think that the RTX 60 series will be delayed. And the reason for that is because NVIDIA just simply has no reason to drop cards even faster than the RTX 5090 anytime soon, as both Intel and AMD simply aren't challenging anywhere near that performance. So they could just do some slight refreshes near the end of the year and just relaunch that. And possibly that's what the Super Series is going to be. Maybe it'll be a slight price drop. Maybe they'll move some names and core configurations around, give you a little bit more memory, and that's all you're going to get as they delay the RTX 60 series. However, I don't think the 60 series will be delayed an entire year or anything crazy like that. I think instead of Q4 of 2026 that some people might have been expecting, you might be looking at Q1 or Q2 of 2025. So a 3 to 6 month delay as they wait for their competitors to try and catch up to some degree. And that is going to take some time. Intel's making very fast progress, and while AMD did release a somewhat impressive architecture with the RX 9000 series, they were unable to meet their MSRPs pretty much the entire lifespan of the card so far, and they also just aren't anywhere near the RTX 5090. Instead of continuing to challenge NVIDIA at the high end, it seems like this generation actually pulled back and put less resources, it almost seems like, at least from my perspective, into Radeon as a whole. It seems like they're almost taking money away from Radeon and putting it into AI rather than doubling down into GPUs. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of what it looks like to me. So I don't think NVIDIA sees Radeon as a serious competitor or a serious threat to their GPUs whatsoever. They aren't upsetting the market. They aren't releasing GPUs in numbers to even hit their MSRPs and challenge NVIDIA where they can even challenge them, let alone challenging NVIDIA at the RTX 5080 or the RTX 5090. Those will continue to go unchallenged until at least another generation from AMD, and hopefully at that time AMD does step back up to the plate and start to seriously challenge NVIDIA, not just at the medium range of GPUs, but all the way up to the high end. But that's what I think. I think there will be a slight delay, 3 to 6 months, for both Super Series as well as RTX 60, and if it's more than a 3-month delay on the Super Series, I think they'll just outright cancel them. But hey, that's just what I think. Do you think that the RTX 50 Super Series will still be coming out next year, or do you think it's gonna be completely canceled? And when do you think the RTX 60 series will end up coming out? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below, and of course, I'll see you in the next video. If you made it to the end of the video, be sure to drop a like. Every time you do so, AMD and NVIDIA release new GPUs. Also, if you want to see more, check out one of these related videos. You won't be disappointed.